Mark Sowerby, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To the average pundit, how would you describe yourself?
Survivor. Yeah, I think that's probably the most I could say. But that's a good thing, right? I think mostly if you look at history, and it's the people that survive that win the day. So staying alive is the hard bit. And then if you stay in the game long enough, then hopefully the things that you want to happen or that you hope will happen or that you're trying to shape, hopefully they happen for you because you're still there. So no, survivor, that's the most, I think.
You're an incredible human. I've known you for a number of years. What you've been able to achieve, I guess, over the last 10 years, particularly in the swimming realm, is something that there aren't many people on the planet that have been able to achieve. Marathon swimming is its own niche discipline. You got your taste of it swimming the English Channel, and you raised over $1 million for Starlight through that process. Talk to me about Ocean 7, what it is, why that sparked your interest, and why that came into your sphere after you did the English Channel.
Yeah, so the English Channel was a personal reset. So it was a different problem. I sort of had this peripheral understanding of the Ocean 7 and absolutely no interest in it at all, especially after doing the English Channel. I could never imagine wanting to go through that again. And I thought I did learn a lot from the English Channel experience, and particularly that discipline around training and stuff that people that are actually athletic have done a lot of, including my wife. So I sort of had this baseline understanding that it was there, but no desire at all. There was no itch or need to achieve or tick the box. And it was only because life got hard, in a moment of good fortune, if you want to call it that, and care, that Tim Denyer, my English Channel coach, Trent Grimsey trained me for the English Channel, and Tim took me across the English Channel. So Trent was really my coach, but Tim, we built a great relationship, and he came in to see me before Christmas. It was not long before COVID. It was November, I think, or December, and he was shocked at my condition. Instinctively felt the need to try and convince me to do something worthwhile. And for him, as a swim coach, he was naturally, I guess, searching inside the world that he knows, and that was where he said to me eventually, after 7 Coronas or something like that, that why don't we do the Ocean 7 together? I've never coached anyone to do it. Let's go. And so I said yes. And then, of course, COVID hit. So lucky, because at least it gave me something to train for. And then Molokai was the first one that came along for me, only because it's hard to get slots at some of these. In other words, to get a swimming slot because you're swimming solo, and there's only so many that you can fit in per year.
Talk to me about the Ocean 7 as a challenge in itself.
Yeah, so there's 7 channels, and the idea of it was that it was like a mirror image of the 7 summits in mountaineering. So there had been this Everest and English Channel thing that had gone on forever. So when they had the 7 summits, then Steve Montones invented the 7 oceans, and basically chose a whole bunch of swims that already existed and picked the ones that he thought were going to properly test people in the ultimate way, in a swimming sense. And so I think one of his great lines is that whatever your kryptonite is, you have to deal with it twice. So for me, it's cold, but also sharks and also jellyfish. So it's designed to do that. And so the easiest one is the Gibraltar Strait. So that's from Spain to Morocco, like 15, 16 Ks, 4 or 5 hours normally. And you can actually swim that as a pod of 4 because so many people are doing that. And it's more there because it's iconic. And then you've got the Molokai Channel, so Molokai to Oahu, which is the thing that everyone paddles. And so that's 45 kilometres overnight, no shark cage, 700 metres of water. It's warm at least. And you do
700 metres
deep. Yes. And obviously a lot of wildlife.
A lot
there.
of shark. Very sharky.
Yeah, the way Steve described, I said to Steve Montones, how much sharkier is Molokai than the rest? And the rest are sharky. And he said, well, the way I would summarise it, Mark, is that all the others combined are less than half of the risk of Molokai. So Molokai is nuts.
And there's obviously been well-documented
Yes,
shark attacks and
yes, there's been incidents. And so then you've got the English Channel, obviously, so from the UK to France. Then you've got the North Channel, which is Donaghadee and Northern Ireland to Port Patrick in northern Scotland. So that's in cold water, same distance roughly as the English Channel.
Yeah, right.
Catalina Channel, so Catalina Island to San Pedro, which is basically LA harbour. Catalina Island's about 32 k's off. That's a night swim in a great white breeding ground. So that's an interesting one as well. Night swims are always interesting. The Sagara Strait, so Honshu to Hokkaido. So that's the main island to Hokkaido. And so it's a weird swim. It's a crazy swim with currents and various things. And it's sort of got a bit of everything. And it's also the one that decides if you get across or not. Like, you'll give you a day or it won't. And it won't matter who you are, you just can't get across. And
weather conditions, you mean?
Weather conditions, yeah, weather and current, especially current. It's got big whirlpools and things there.
Oh.
And then the Cook Strait, so in my case, South Island to North Island. So that's 22 k's. I think it's about a 26 or 28 k swim. They're always longer than the number.
Point to point.
Yes, and so and some of those are cold, and some have jellyfish problems, and some have shark problems. And for me, it's a multi-year project. So we end up going back to it. And then, as it turns out, the only one we could really get into was Molokai.
The sharkiest.
Yes, that was my first one, but at least it wasn't cold. So I ended up getting ready to do Molokai, and we still had to do PCR tests and all those things to get in and get out and all that sort of stuff. And so we went over to Molokai, and you can't even see a wahoo over the horizon. Like, you're swimming beyond the horizon. It's just a crazy swim, but structurally quite unique. And I didn't realise how hard it would be to go back in the water to do something that you knew how hard it was going to be, that you knew the feeling. And it gets really hard to meet that pain again, knowing what it's going to be. And sometimes it's worse than your experience has been.
At that point, your reference is
the English Channel. Yeah. Molokai has the fear factor too. There was no fear factor other than the cold. I wasn't worried about getting eaten in English Channel. I was definitely worried about getting eaten in Molokai.
No shark nets, no wetsuit.
No, so it's you versus Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So one of the arguments for the swimming fraternity over the mountain climbing fraternity is that we don't get any help. So there's no oxygen tanks, there's no Sherpas, there's no. But you have a boat that they throw the food out to you. It's mostly liquid, so it's nutrition, and you just keep moving. Feed every 30 minutes in your Speedos or your swimmers. You can't wear jammers or anything. You've just got to wear Speedos. It's got to be as little as possible, and goggles and a little light on the back, and swimming cap. And then in the case of Molokai, you are actually next to a kayak, and it's a few hundred metres behind the boat because the boat attracts sharks. And the boat's got no lights except for one light on the top that the kayaker follows. So you're trying to stealth across this channel, which seems really stupid when you say it like that. And so you swim next to the kayak, and it's got 2 shark shields on it. So it's got those electromagnetic shark shields with the cord that comes down and pumps out a pulse, and they clearly help. Yeah. Like, I felt a couple of times what I thought were sharks coming in and turning away.
Right.
But I think if they're coming hard, it's not going to stop them. But a sniffer, yeah, it'll stop it.
I guess going into the English Channel, you're doing that. You got this charity, you've raised all this money. It's just cold, and you've obviously done a lot of work in Melbourne to manage that.
Mm.
But as a Queensland boy, it's not something that's familiar. Talk to me about what you're going through starting that Molokai pass, because that's the first step of 1,000 in this Ocean 7 approach.
Yeah, so I didn't really expect to get across. So I knew I had done the work that I could do. And like everyone, I had sort of COVID along the way. So it was always battling injuries in a way. But I got myself there I knew I was in good enough condition to do it physically. Mm. And then I had to get the mental side sorted out, which was much more around fear of all the sharks and everything else. And so I worked really hard on that. There were 17 people that tried the year before COVID. 2 got across. 4 got knocked out with shark attacks. 4 got knocked out with box jellyfish and ended up in ICU. So my expectations weren't that something like that would happen and I wouldn't get across. So I sort of went in with a attitude of, I've done the work, I'm going to put everything into this. I'm not going to be the reason that I don't get across, but understanding and expecting that
It's quite likely
that the channel was going to take me out in some way, whether it be wildlife or something else. We obviously, I had one of those sort of life-changing moments that can happen out of nowhere when Tim and I went to see a professor that has her own jellyfish cream that she made for the Navy SEALs, and she gives you that. You can sort of paste it on yourself, particularly around your shoulders and your neck, because your neck and your throat's quite vulnerable to box jellyfish, and so you go and see her in her place, and then she had a chat to us about sharks. And I remember the look on Tim's face. I think the only person more scared of sharks than me is Tim. And so she says to us, "So boys, we need to talk about sharks." We're like, "Okay." And she said, "So, don't worry about sharks being around you when you're out there. They'll be around you the whole time. And so you need to remember that you're a big ocean swimmer, that you belong out there. You need to keep your heart rate down, keep your stroke rate consistent. Don't be prey." And so as soon as she said to me, "Don't be prey," then sort of like my mind exploded with that line. It was, it was such a relevant summary of what I had been since my company had been attacked, and I'd been behaving like a victim, I suppose. You just find yourself, it's woe is me, and everybody else has done these terrible things. How can this happen to me? And that's life, unfortunately. And so as soon as my attitude changed around that, from being a victim to deciding that I was going to do something about it, then I started to get better, started to improve. And so don't be prey for me became very much a mantra. And I thought about it a lot, and, don't be prey didn't mean for me to then suddenly be the predator to attack and to do all these things. It was more around not allowing other things to be done to me. And sometimes that might mean you need to go on the attack, but it doesn't mean being aggressive or anything like that. I think it was quite a powerful line, and I really used that for that swim, and concentrated very much on taking her advice and keeping my heart rate down, and my stroke rate consistent, and just accepting that whatever was going to happen out there was going to happen, and I just didn't need to add to the risk.
Hey team, just popping in to say thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the episode, please take a second to like or follow the show and share it with a friend. It's the best way to help us grow and keep bringing you more great content. All right, let's get back into it.
You've said about that swim that you were a bit nonchalant about the chances of a shark attack or being eaten.
Mm.
You talk about you playing victim around what happened to you with Blue Sky. I've known you before that. In fact, I think I first met you, unbeknownst to me, in that place of victimhood.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know whether you remember this, but I wanted to start this chat the way we have, because your history, your business history, you're the most accomplished business person that I know. I remember we were at dinner at Noosa one night, and Heidi was there, you were there. I knew Heidi's through a triathlon, was looking forward to dinner. And I didn't know much about you other than you were in business, or you were in corporate. And I remember asking you, so why are you out of? How did you finish? Why are you no longer working there?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you said, "I don't want to talk about it."
Mm.
And I had no idea of the enormous question that I've just asked in that place that you were at.
Yeah.
And I remember then Hyde saying, "Just don't talk about it." Sort of that sort of mentality. It wasn't. And I first want to say I deeply regret not doing my research about what you were going through, or at least what was.
But research these days, what people call researchers, they get on Google. And, if you Google me today, mostly what you get is Blue Sky stuff. And that's okay. I'm actually fine with that. It's because I know that that's not true.
So take me back. Take me back from when you started it, when in the inception of that company. Because I think it's relevant to understand what you were dealing with, what Tim saw in you pre-COVID. And I'm interested to know as well, because he would have seen you in the Channel crossing.
Sure.
And then he's seen you a year or two or three after that.
Yeah.
And you were in
3, yeah.
You weren't in a good way. And so
No.
Your mental health, your own position in where you stand is deteriorating. I think it's really important to understand just what you've been able to accomplish in this Ocean 7, to understand the backstory of where you came from.
I mean, in a nutshell, we started a little company. I really liked building businesses. So my business plan was to have a little private equity company that found businesses that I could invest into with my money and a few other people, and we could sort of make them bigger and build some wealth that way and do what I like doing on steroids, basically. And then that grew. Like, I didn't realise, so the scale of the opportunity ended up being much more than I expected. I had no background in private equity at all.
You focus on agriculture as well?
Yeah, but mostly trading, really, commodity trading and stuff like that. The business? No, not at all. No, not then. Anything we could find, really.
Okay.
It was growth capital. It was very much venture capital, really. I didn't really understand the difference. It was sort of late stage venture capital. And then we started to surround ourselves with better and better people, and the opportunity was bigger than we expected. And
why do you think that was?
I think that's because Australians were so used to listed market. I mean, there was an opportunity. That market was, the whole unlisted private market space was, at that stage, this is 2006, 7, was pretty much untapped. There was stuff going on, but not much, and certainly nothing really formal and large, whereas in the US that had happened.
So it's a private equity firm, but it's private in the sense that not listed.
No, not listed,
and
no.
Could people invest in that?
They could invest in as we did deals. It was sort of a deal at a time.
Okay.
And then it sort of grew from there. And then we just kept getting more and more ideas around various things. And so we sort of started scaling. And then I realised through, just to shorten the story a little bit, that we could build what was called an alternative asset manager, which was in private equity and private real estate, which is just unlisted property, hedge funds and real assets. Real assets for us was things like agriculture, but certainly our water fund. So we sort of had a silo for each already, and we just decided to continue to try and build that. And we listed early, I listed really small, and I thought that the structure of the listed markets and the pain and the difficulty of getting onto it would be really good for us and would accelerate our growth, particularly post the global financial crisis, because we were just coming out of that. And also it would give us access to capital as a company to grow. And that's what happened. So we listed with a market cap of 30 million. And when I left, we had a market cap of 600, and I think it topped out at 1.2 after I left. So it went really well after I left.
1.2 billion.
Yes, and then it went to zero. It still exists, but it exists privately. So, and what you don't realise on that journey, that was a 10-year journey, and I was very lucky. We got a whole bunch of very smart people that came in around us, and we started to build scale, and things worked really well. And then we decided to leave for a whole bunch of family reasons, which was definitely the right call, and still was the right call looking back. And 10 years is enough. I didn't really love the work. It wasn't going to be my life's work. The life's work is the boys and IT. So I just didn't see work as being, I don't know, I didn't see it as being that critically important, particularly after the English Channel. But what I didn't understand was how much of my identity was attached to the success of that business. And so when it was taken down, and I was taken down as part of that, so suddenly all the things that you've worked for are gone, including most of our wealth, because we kept, more than half of our shares, the majority of our shares. So, it's sort of the structure of your life changes in seconds, really. And
take me back there, though. You've built this business into a 500 million cap, let's say, when you've left.
Yeah.
And you're leaving because, I've known you for quite a while. You're probably one of the most family-orientated men I know as well.
Yep.
You got 2 incredible boys. Heidi's your wife. The family nucleus is so strong. That's the primary driver to decide now's the time to
yeah,
go?
The problem with the work was the business that I'd built was that the being in the business and working as hard as I needed to and travelling as much as I needed to was mutually exclusive. They didn't fit.
And the boys would have been just start of high school?
Yeah, 11 and 13, 12 and 14.
Yeah.
12 and 14, I think. So that's when you need to be around your boys. And it'd been 10 years. And we'd had some time together as part of the English Channel journey. So I'd had this sort of 3 or 4 month look into the family and realised I was disconnected and thought I needed to make a choice. And so I made a choice.
So you were still working in the business when you did the English Channel?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I still worked for another year after that. And so that was for sure the impetus. And there's a whole bunch of things that led in, and there's other factors and various things. But the drivers and the decisions were around family and what's important. And also I thought we could do like a lot of social good. I was interested in taking on some problems and helping fix some little things around doing the chief entrepreneur job and other stuff like that. So
yes, the Queensland government started a department called the Chief Entrepreneur
yes,
to help business in the state.
Yeah, help get the startup thing going. And
you were the head of that
just for year one, yeah.
As an organisation.
And then there were a lot of other people that did it after me. So I just did year one or the first 14 months. And then within a couple of months after that was when the company was attacked in the short selling attack. And look, at the end of the day, it's just business stuff, right? But what happens in reality is that, you're getting smashed in the press and everywhere, and I've got no control.
Come back to me, Mark. At what point in that period of time where the short sell's happening, when do you first get the sort of feeling that you're out of the business, you've left the business in good shape with other people to run it, and you've got you got half of your shares still.
Yeah.
So you're invested in it in doing well, in the sense of how you've left it.
Yes.
And I would have thought you'd be the majority shareholder.
No, but I think myself and another guy were the two biggest private shareholders.
Right.
I think we had about 5% each or something, because it's got institutional shareholding, but it's quite a big company.
At what point are you being told murmurs that there's problems?
Oh, no, nothing. It's when the report came out.
Okay.
So they dropped the report, and it was on the 28th of March 2018.
And share price at that before the report came out was?
$11.50.
And then after the report?
Within a few days, it was down to $5, and with a few days after that, it was down to $2 something. Yeah, but then it just kept going, and so they kept attacking, and there was a lot of other stuff that went on. What happens? The lesson from it is that, like in most things in life, your life can change in an instant, and it might be an accident, or it might be you're the victim of a crime, or someone runs over you, or you just get diagnosed with some terrible disease. There's lots of worse things that can happen.
The rug gets pulled.
And by definition, it's happened suddenly. And so the question then is, how do you deal with that trauma? And for me, this was traumatic. And having a failed business, or a business that you started that failed, is not that traumatic. The way this happened was traumatic.
That it was outside your control.
And the biggest business story of 2018. And I just thought it was an injustice. So then I started work on...
And is it directed at you, do you think, because you're the founder?
Yes, definitely.
You founded it.
Yep.
You've left.
You own it.
And then it's gone to shit for whatever reason.
Yes.
That's probably less important to the journalist.
Yes, but it was important for the short sellers to destroy the reputation of the company. And to do that, you need to destroy the reputation of the founder and the people that are leading it at the time. And they worked very hard at that and did a great job. So...
And I presume, Mark, as well, you've still got not only your wealth tied up in that, and Heidi's and the families, but a lot of people that you know, a lot of friends.
And all the people that I worked with that I loved. So in the end, I end up on the outside. A whole bunch of things happen. They end up getting some debt in from a venture fund who take them out a year later, and the company's delisted and still exists, but is private, but we all get wiped out. And so the narrative is that it was never any good and must have gone down for that reason. And so I had to make a choice between living with what we've got and accepting my fate, which was the advice of most people. And maybe that's what they would do. And maybe it's because they cared and they just wanted to see me stop suffering and, live a life. But that life was going to be in the shadows. And also, I understood very clearly that what had happened to us was wrong and likely illegal. And so I thought, right, I can't unscramble this egg. How do I make it on net a positive? How do I make the biggest business story in 2018 that was bad into something that is net good? And the Ocean 7 was a part of that process.
Because you're sitting there for a number of years post. You're in sort of the well.
Probably in a hole for maybe 4 years.
And for someone who's as accomplished as you and mentally strong, and you've done the channel and all the things, does that surprise you in retrospect?
I was surprised at how weak I was. So I think that all of the things that you just said I learned are not true. So remember, there's a lot of luck in building a good business as well. And a lot of that has to do with timing and sometimes good decisions, sometimes lucky decisions, sometimes great people. So accomplished is not the right word, and I definitely wasn't as resilient as I thought I was. In the end, what I actually learned was that none of those things were actually really true. They were a perception that I had and that others had, and it wasn't true. So I thought, okay, how do I make that true for me? And how do I make it so that if something like this happens to me again, I am structurally much better equipped to manage the pain and the trauma and the fear and the uncertainty and all of those things. And as it turns out, the Ocean 7 was the absolute perfect framework for that, because you are in your head at training for 2 or 3 hours. I never had music. All you do is think about the things that have happened to you and the things that you can do to try and make it right. And so when you do enough of that, and then you go to this sort of grand final where you're going to be in the water and you're looking at the ocean and anything can happen, and you sort of get used to dealing with uncertainty. You get used to being prepared as you can and controlling the things that you can. You get used to building a really good team for that particular channel crossing. You try and mitigate all your risks and improve your prospects of success, and particularly not being a very good swimmer. So, because I'm not a very good swimmer, I'm probably quite slow, but so I got better at other things associated with those swims around the mental side and not slowing down as much and doing the training and getting nutrition right and all the little things that you can do. So that sort of recipe then became a really good metaphor for the big fight, which was so they became a framework to rebuild a bunch of things, but including my courage. I had people around me that were encouraging me to fight back, and I sort of knew I had to, just wasn't ready. So we kept working on things and kept collecting evidence and watching what was happening in the markets and who was doing what, and I was totally convinced that I was right, and so in the end we launched a class action, and that's in play, but it wasn't a straight line getting to that point, and I understand completely that we may not win that. That what do they say? You don't go to the courts for justice, and so, but let's see how that goes.
Everyone's trauma is their own, and it's not comparable. You can try to be objective about it, but how you dealt with yours is different to how I dealt with mine, and a different subject matter and all the things. But what's similar with you and I is that for a lot of hours in a day, whilst we were dealing with that, we're by ourselves in our own head.
Yeah.
You're not able to lean on a group of employees or workers, or you are literally, I mean, swimming is a prime example, because you don't even have a bike computer to look at, to play with in terms of data set. You're just feeling the water for hours on end. Early days when you're trying to find your feet again and build this path towards Ocean 7 and the preparation for it, but you're still also managing getting out of the well emotionally and yourself. How are you dealing with that, working so hard, so many hours by yourself?
Well, there's good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks. So sometimes, I'd be in the best training at Bond University, you'd be doing a 7 or 8K training set, and, you'd spend most of the time just crying into your goals. Sometimes you'd just be screaming in your head, and I had to find my own way to work through it. So I didn't get any help at all along the way, other than friends and family and little bits and pieces. But basically, I decided that the problem I was solving for was not just getting into a better place, it was getting ready for battle. And so that was quite motivational to pull myself out to say, you need to be a much better version than you were to handle what you're about to do and what will come at you and the things that are likely to be done to you in that journey, and also the length of that journey. It's probably a 5 or 10 year journey through the courts. And that's scary for most. For me, it's fine. Like, I'm really comfortable with that. So what the swimming did was gave me the opportunity to deal with it and know where to hide. And then it would gift me these moments of extreme suffering in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, where you get stripped so raw that you get to with the North Channel, the suffering was so bad. The way I've described it is that you end up looking into your own soul, like there's nothing left. And so to get to that point, you get to see who you really are in those situations, in more than one situation too. And interestingly for me, because I'm a bit of a slow learner, it took me until really the last swim, because there were other swims on the way, New York and various other things I did in Derwent River. It took me until the last swim, the Japan swim, to actually get to the point that I'd reached my peak. And I went and did that thing as an event as opposed to rehab that was there to be done as a swim.
Taken.
Yeah, and enjoyed and fingers crossed the channel gifted me a day to get across. And then, of course, we filmed the whole thing. So the accident of history was that we filmed the English Channel to raise money, and so we had the best, authentic
file footage
video of an English Channel swim, which has now become a resource for most swimmers. It's on YouTube, and so we just kept filming to see what would happen. And as much as Jeff, the guy that made it, wanted me to get eaten by a shark, I clearly didn't. And but lots of things happened on the way, and so that's been turned into a movie.
North Channel swim.
Mm-hmm.
You reference that as probably the hardest of the lot.
The three hardest, really. The English Channel was incredibly hard because I'd never experienced anything like that before. And it was still, it's 14 and a half hours in the end, and just as long as any of my longest ones. In fact, it ended up being my longest one by 1 minute. It was cold and I had to deal with a lot of stuff. So, but in Molokai brought with it a different challenge, which is the length of that thing. It's a washing machine and the fear. And so there was a different problem in Molokai. And it's a night swim. Starting at 5:30 p.m, sun goes down about 8:30.
Why is it night?
To avoid the bad weather, as best you can.
The weather's better at night.
Yeah, settles down a bit at night, theoretically. And then the North Channel, of course, is so cold. So Molokai was the hardest mentally, dealing with fear and all of those things. And I was back in the game as well. That was my second one. North Channel was the hardest in terms of suffering. I'd never experienced suffering anything like that before. I was in trouble in that with the cold 2.5 hours in.
So 2.5 hours in a 10-hour swim.
12 hours and something it was in the end, yeah.
You're thinking, I'm getting extremely cold.
My back was already blue, like I was in trouble.
How cold is the water?
11 to 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, no wetsuit. So, but I was pretty fat. So which is the job. So the North Channel took me to a place that that was.
What are you doing through the hours 3, 4, 5, 6 to break the back of that?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm trying to get to the next feed and trying to find ways to stay warm as I can, and trying different things to improve my physical well-being. By the time I got to about 6.5 hours, I was actually thinking about whether I should pull myself out because I knew I probably wasn't halfway.
Are there hallucinations happening, Mark?
Oh yeah, you have not hallucinations. I haven't had that. I've certainly been incoherent in various things, and I don't really remember any hallucinations or anything like that, but people do get that. So then I get to 6.5 hours and I'm really thinking that I've got to say to Tim, it's not happening today. But also I had a day that was swimmable. And so it was really important to not waste that opportunity. And the challenge of it was compelling. But at 9.5 hours, I decided I needed to get out, and thought about that a lot. As it turns out, Tim was thinking the same thing at both times. So he was so in tune with me by then that, but we both decided to keep going and without sort of saying anything. And he found a way to coach me across and get me through. And Heidi was on the boat, of course, as well. And yeah, it was a unique experience that I never want to have to go through again. But I'm so glad I've seen what that looks like.
That's your reference point.
Yeah, I just can't imagine ever going through anything as painful as that again, but it's just one day. Like it always ends, including the trauma stuff. That's what you learn, it always ends, which is the survival piece.
Is that the takeaway? Is that the takeaway for people who, when they're dealing with something, when the rug gets pulled underneath them? Because it's hard, right? It's hard at that point in time you don't have an understanding of when it's going to end.
No.
But is that where you go to when the next time something gets pulled underneath you, Mark, you think this is shit, but there will be an end to this?
Yeah, I feel like I've got a toolkit now I still get scared, I still feel pain, I still have grief, all those things, but I just know how to deal with it now. So there's nothing more certain in life that bad things are going to happen to you that you don't see coming or you don't expect. No one gets through life without that. No one. And so how do you get yourself into a position where when that happens, you don't let the hole get too deep, because the deeper the hole, the harder it is to get out of it. 4 years for me to not get out of it completely, but to be on the way out. That's 4 years of my life gone. And so...
How do you reflect on that?
Well, I feel like it's time well invested in the new version. So I feel like that's the price.
You needed that.
That's just how long it took. And so it is what it is. And also, remember, I didn't really have enough I didn't have a purpose. So once I had a purpose, then that helps. And so, I wasn't going back to work. I was just waiting for the next hit, and they just kept coming. But they do end. And if you've done the right thing and you're doing the right thing, then that does not guarantee that it will turn for you. But what it does do is it increases the probability that it will. So I don't believe in fate, and I don't believe in karma. I do believe in probabilities. And so the more good stuff you do, logically, the more good things might happen for you. And the alternative is also true. and so I do believe in maths. And so, but also I do believe that you need to actively pursue and shape things as best you can to a particular goal or a story or a mission or whatever you want to call it. And I've had that mission, and all of the things that I've started and seeded years ago are starting to come to fruition. And then sometimes, because you've been sowing good things, then sometimes things fall your way. And so, we're a chance of justice and holding people to account and of, getting the truth out. If that really gets out, I think that it's going to be an extraordinary story. But I also understand that a lot of those things I don't control. So I'll just continue to work on the evidence and the truth and try and win the day and let the rest look after itself. Sort of like crossing a channel.
And that it's not a straight line.
No, none of it has been. Like at different times I've been weak and, upset about things, and you don't manage yourself perfectly, but I just don't beat myself up on that anymore. It's all about the net. So on net, is that as good as it can be? And that's what we're trying to do. And I'm certainly a different person to the one that left work and much more settled and comfortable, really don't care what other people think anymore. Nobody knows me better than me. And now, and maybe that's the beauty of the Ocean 7 in a way, is that because I found it so hard. I mean, if you're a brilliant swimmer and you have a lot of luck, it's not as crazy hard as it was for me. For me, it was so hard that I really did get to see the good and the bad of myself. And then I was able to work on the bad and try and mitigate that or reduce that. You can never get rid of all of it. I could see my weaknesses and work my way through them, but I was working my way through them in a channel in the middle of nowhere quite often in the dark. So it's just for what I needed, it was structurally a brilliant challenge to change my life.
By opening up the shadow of your soul, as you put it, you think by exposing that, putting that into the light was cathartic?
The cathartic sort of like it's a gift. What it was, the gift of this thing is that there's nothing quite like knowing that when truly tested, more than once, that you've got it in you. And once you know that for yourself, not for other people, but for yourself, because no one else knows how you're feeling in that channel. They know you're hurting, but they can't feel it. Once you know that for yourself, then the only way I can describe it is the comfort that gives you around who you are, what you're capable of, and what's important to you, then that sort of ripples out from you into everything else that you do. And everything looks different. Noise disappears. I still hear noise. I still get noise in my head, but I just know how to cut it out. And it's not easy. I still have to work. I'm not good enough to just do it. So you suddenly end up with this, like everything resonates differently. You sort of know who your people are. You know the things that you like and you don't like. You know when you're having a good day and a bad day. You know what to do when you don't get a great night's sleep. You know what to do when you're having a panic attack, which I still get, or when fear hits, or when I get emotional. I can pull that back quicker. So I think what it means is that I've got higher highs and higher lows. I'm still on a roller coaster, but I'm not trending down, and I'm not digging deep holes that I end up.
You've got the toolkit to be able to bring it back up.
Yes, and so I have daily rituals and different things that I do to manage myself, because I'm not strong enough to manage myself without those daily rituals. So I understand that and I'm okay with it.
What would your advice be for somebody who, I guess, is listening and needing to hear this, but also needing to, but not necessarily wanting to go and tackle the 7 straits? How do you, like you're saying, through that process, you're able to find this place of
find understand myself better. And so everyone talks about getting outside your comfort zone. So I want to be very careful not to, I'm determined on this journey not to be giving advice. So I have a very strong view that I don't want to be preaching to people, this is what you should do. My experience for the problem I was trying to solve and for who I am was that this was great for me. What I'm sure of, though, is that the happiest people that I met on all this journey were, and it didn't matter whether they were accountants or lawyers or tradies or King's counsels, didn't matter who they were. Everyone's the same in the water. But what I found is that the happiest people were the ones that were not just outside their comfort zone, but were trying something really hard. And they built to it. They didn't just jump to it generally. Something so far outside their comfort zone that they had to discover who they were. And when the journey they were on, it was like bright, wide eyes, bright eyes, so open to everything, because they understood that what they were doing was so hard for them that they needed to be open to every little bit of advice or knowledge or experience that they could. When they got it done, the satisfaction that you would see that they were able to get that thing done, whether it be the English Channel or something else, was beautiful. And the happiness and joy that they got from that, the way I've seen a lot of them since, the way they feel like they relate to their families and their children and their partners and their parents and the people they work with, it's different. So finding something that you can do that takes you to that place, whatever that is, it seems to be, well, I'm not going to say it is because that would be preachy, it seems to be that is one of the recipes to have a happier life. And I think it equips them for all the other stuff in their life. But it's nothing quite like ticking that box of knowing that it's in you, I reckon.
You've gone after something so outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
And that you're able to.
Depending on your driver too, you need the right reasons to do stuff. Like I met people that were doing things to be the first to do something or to set a record or whatever else. They didn't get the same outcome. I didn't think they were driving for something different. It's not wrong. It's just different. The ones that were trudging across a channel that had no chance of breaking any records, and they were the 741st person from England to do it, it's sort of like, and the 7th from their town or something. So, it's not, it just wasn't relevant. And so it was just for them.
Yeah.
Then they were the ones that got something really worthwhile.
And you said that you're on now, the documentary's been made, and you're heading over to the Northern Hemisphere for its, I guess, origin premiere.
Yeah.
It's going to be a busy couple of years.
So along the way, as this accident, we ended up filming all the swims. But what the people making the film learned was that whole marathon swimming community had these beautiful elements that no one had ever seen. And so the strength of the film comes from the breadth of characters from different countries, their drivers and their experiences, and then the things that happen to them. And so, with the Ocean 7 as the framework. And so there's obviously a lot of beauty that comes with the places that we go to, and a lot of risk. So the film is called Don't Be Prey, and I think that I know that I'm shocked at the quality of the film that's been made in the end. It's not really a swimming documentary, and but it's still a documentary, and so it's not necessarily commercial, but gee, it's a lot of fun, and so it feels like it's a bit of a celebration tour in a way, to get to go and see lots of people along the journey that we've become friends with, and so we kick off in the UK, and then it will be in Australia in early May, I think the 7th of May, in cinemas. The documentaries don't normally end up in cinemas, but the distributors are of the view that this deserves a shot at it. And so it will be up to the market to decide how long it stays in there, but they normally don't last too long, and then it'll end up on a streaming service somewhere. But it's been an unexpected upside surprise.
So good. And what's, other than that, and spruiking that and going on tour and doing the Q&As and probably the 4,000 podcasts that will come out of it, what's next for you?
We've tried to build redundancy into our life to enjoy where this might take us. So I'm treating this a little bit like a channel swim, in the sense that swims are done, movie's done, everything's prepared, all the training's done. Let's just see where it takes us. So I'm trying to keep a really open playbook to just see what happens. I will write a book to go with it as well, which has been quite fun because there's so many stories you forget and people remind you. So they'll be just around the swims and stuff. And then, of course, we have the litigation that I'm running. Yeah, that brings with it its own workload. And then there are other things for us to do, maybe in business, but I'm going to keep those on ice until we see where this whole film experience takes. This is a once in a lifetime. I'll never do this again. So just enjoy it. And you do meet incredible people. I suppose we are of the view that we should try and become global citizens again, which we used to be. And having been in a little bubble for quite some time, it's nice to get out and around the world and go to places you wouldn't otherwise go. Heidi has this great expression, holidays with purpose, which is where she used to go for triathlons and the swims. So this is a bit of a holiday with purpose. Yeah.
It'd be remiss of me not to pay homage to Heidi. So she's been, talk to me about her, I guess, as a human and what she has meant to you over this period of time.
Look, Heidi didn't ask for the things that happened. You don't expect your business life to be pervasive in your personal life in a negative way on a multi-year basis. So that's an unacceptable position to put her in, and everybody suffers around that. And sure, she did too. But through all of that, Heidi's always been the understated leader of our family. She sets the rules for sure and the moral compass, and she manages everything in terms of our direction and lifting us when we're not doing well enough. And if I get too fat, she puts me on the mini ice creams. And so she's always experimenting. She's obviously highly intelligent, and she has really inoculated the boys with great values because she's the one that spent the most time with them, particularly during those formative years. So she's the foundation and the leader of our family. And I guess we both have done things that are a bit extreme. So we sort of have this understanding that when one's doing something big, the other one supports. And we've done it with Heidi before with her triathlon. So that will flip again now back to Heidi's things that will be coming along. And so, but very obviously, you find out who you married in tough times. And I just got lucky. So I got so lucky, and I'm very grateful for that. So Heidi has supported me. She has a very good sense of right and wrong, and she understands completely that we needed to do something about this, and she understands that no one else is coming to save us. So if we want to live a full life, this has to be dealt with. It has to be dealt with. Having her support, and that's been incredible. I suppose also she's just got, we're not really particularly capitalist or commercial, or, we're not material, so which is just as well. And she never seemed, her quest for self-improvement, her constant quest for self-improvement, her curious nature, and her willingness to do research and the hard work and then test all that stuff on herself is pretty inspiring. So I think all three of us boys have been trying to lift to her level the whole way through. So and I would say that as a result of that, I don't know what she would say, but I would say that that we've never been more in love than we are today, which is sort of, that's life, right? So we've ended up a better unit as a result. I do think fighting back is part of that. I think if we'd crawled under a rock, I don't know that would be the case. You have to fight.
That's beautiful.
It just is what it is.
I really appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
It's been on my radar to have you in the studio talk about this. You guys live in the Gold Coast, so I really appreciate you coming up on the way through. And yeah, you're a force, man. And there aren't too many units like yourself and Hyde as strong as that I've ever known. So you are the example. So keep at it.
Still alive.
Before you go, five quick questions.
Oh, yep, sure.
Mark Sowerby, what does success mean to you now?
Success means survival for me. I understand the importance of survival. And so constantly being able to get through difficult times means that everything else will work out for us. So that for me is by far the most important thing, and it looks after everything else.
What does happiness mean to you?
Still trying to be the best person that I can be. So I understand that I have a whole bunch of things that I've constantly got to work on. And my best weeks and happiest weeks are always when I've stayed disciplined and stuck to my mantras and not regressed into the natural bad behaviors and instincts that I have. So happiness for me is literally down to that I made today a good day on net.
You talked about your routines. What does that look like on a daily basis? What does the morning routine look like? What do you have to do?
Yeah, mornings are really important for me. I have to set the tone. So I get up early, get down to 5:30. I get down and get a coffee straight away, come back. I have a paper diary. And in my paper diary, I write the week ahead, and I have 4 filters for each day. And so they are things like embrace the cold, practice indifference, actions for others, discipline, be kind, be humble, but things like that.
Intentions.
Yeah, small filters. I would call them filters. So things that I can run my day through. And I tend to look at the day and the week and try and push those to, for example, if I think I need something to happen for me, I put practice indifference, because if it doesn't happen for me, unless I'm okay with it. So I try to time those for my week as the flow of my week might be. Never more than a week ahead, because that's harder to look. You're usually wrong. So I look at those, and then I actively have to cross those off to make sure they're in my head. And then I look at the day. My day's written out in terms of the things I want to get done or have to get done, and they're always actions. So they're more behaviours and filters, and then I have the actions, and then I process the actions through the filters. I think about who I've got to see that day and how am I going to behave in that meeting or whatever it might be, and how do I manage my way through that. And if I do those things well, then I have a better day. And obviously if I can swim earlier in the day as well, then which I do about 3 times a week, every one of those days is a better day than the days I don't swim, without fail. My temperament's better.
How long are you swimming for these days?
2 to 3K. It's max. It's my old warm-up. And I still get tired. So I think those daily, and then I, eat well. And Heidi's got, eat a big breakfast actually. So eat well, set the day up well.
I like that. Becoming almost in control of the day by planning it and setting it up in front.
And just trying to set the day to stop me from doing stupid things.
And being reactive or...
Yep, and emotional and annoying and stupid and nasty and all that stuff.
if there was a piece of advice you could give to the world, what would that be?
Get up the experience curve quicker. So experience is obviously in part related to age because things happen to you over time. Saying yes to more things and seeking to get out. See, I didn't really get outside my comfort zone with the swims until mid-40s. I wish I'd done it earlier. I would have learned stuff earlier. I would have been better behaved. I would have done better things. So getting into that difficult place outside your comfort zone in terrible places where you discover yourself and doing that younger has huge benefits for the way you can approach the rest of your life. And so you don't waste as many years. Definitely go harder younger.
A person who you know that you think would be a great guest for our show?
Michael Klim. And the reason for that is he's a personal friend, but he has been through a different and much more pervasive version of the identity loss and suffering through his illness with CIDP. And he's gone from being one of the best athletic physical specimens on the planet to having a lot of that taken, not all of it, but a lot of it taken away from him. And the way that he has managed himself and got himself through that is extraordinary. And the way he expresses that now, he's got to a point where he can express all those things really well. I think the depth of courage and resilience is incredibly inspiring, and he would be the person by far that would be the best to interview that I know.
Mark Sowerby, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you, Richard.